defamed. Wait, have you seen the video? I haven't seen the video. Weirdly, they still haven't provided that video. Instead, Trump co-campaign manager Chris LaCivita posted this unrelated 13-second video to social media showing Trump standing in a different part of the cemetery. Then he put it up again with a note reposting this, hoping to trigger the hacks at the Secretary of the Army's office. The grown man who wrote that post, Chris LaCivita, is a Marine vet whose first big splash in politics was putting together the Swift boat attacks that helped sink John Kerry's presidential campaign in 2004. LaCivita is a guy whose entire career is built on Republicans being the real military-loving patriots. Now, to please Trump, he's reduced to being big mad on social media at U.S. Army. So who's triggered here exactly? Though last night Republicans got a reprieve of sorts as media attention turned to that big first sit-down interview with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz since the Democratic convention. Now, this seemed to be anticipated among right-wing viewers as it was among supporters of the Democratic ticket, because a lot of Republicans, and I think this has almost become kind of canon for them, really seem to believe, against all the available evidence, that Harris is not a smart person. It's a baseless charge. It carries with it a lot of sexism and racism, I think. But if you needed any more evidence of that, Trump running mate J.D. Vance provided it, posting to social media, breaking, "I have gotten a hold of the full Kamala Harris interview," accompanied by that notorious viral video, remember, of a flustered junior beauty pageant contestant flubbing the question? That's what J.D. Vance thinks of the sitting vice president of the United States. Here's some of what Kamala Harris actually said in her interview.
When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. The true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. That's what's at stake as much as any other detail that we could discuss in this election.
Did that sound to you like the infamous meme from the beauty pageant respondent? Is that what that sounded like to you? Oh, meanwhile, here was Donald Trump last night.
She destroyed the city of San Francisco. And I own a big building there. I shouldn't talk about this, but that's okay. I don't give a damn because this is what I'm doing. I should say it's the finest city in the world. Sell and get the hell out of there, right? But I can't do that. I don't care, you know. I lost billions of dollars. You know, somebody said, "What do you think he lost?" I said, "Probably $2-3 billion. That's okay. I don't care." They said, "Do you think you'd do it again?" And that's the least of it. Nobody. They always say that, I don't know if you know, Lincoln was horribly treated. Jefferson was pretty horribly. Andrew Jackson, they say, was the worst of all, that he was treated worse than any other president. And I said, do that study again, because I think there's nobody close to Trump. I even got shot. And who the hell knows where that came from, right?
He can't keep a single thought in his head for longer than 3 seconds. I mean, it's just manifest and obvious. So where is J.D. Vance on the one candidate in the race whose cognitive decline is so significant, who's so addled that he cannot stay on topic, cannot stay with a thought for more than a few seconds before returning to his default resentments? Nothing so far. By the way, there was an even darker subtext to Vance's old use of that old viral video of the pageant contestant, which I have to say, actually kind of shocked me because it was so gross and uncalled for. The actual woman in that clip is Caitlin Upton, and that clip brought her, at the time, ridicule and totally wrought havoc on her life. And J.D. Vance was asked about her this morning.
I'm not sure you're aware, in 2015, Caitlin Upton did an interview in New York Magazine about all the social media attention this clip got, and she said, "I definitely went through a period where I was very, very depressed, but I never let anybody see that stuff except for people I could trust. I had some very dark moments where I thought about committing suicide." So when you posted this last night, were you aware that the woman you were posting a picture of had contemplated committing suicide for the attention it received?
No, certainly not, John, and my heart goes out to her, and I hope that she's doing well. Politics has gotten way too lame, John, way too boring. You can have some fun while making a good argument to the American people about how you're going to improve their lives.
Okay, I just want to be clear, though. You said you did know. Would you like to apologize to Caitlin Upton for posting that last night, given what you've now learned?
John, I'm not going to apologize for posting a joke, but I wish the best for Caitlin.
Caitlin Upton, who's posted support for Donald Trump in the past, responded this morning on social media saying it's a shame that 17 years later this is still being brought up. Regardless of political beliefs, one thing I do know is that social media and online bullying needs to stop. That, of course, led to her having to delete her account a short time later because, of course, Alexi McCammon's an MSNBC political analyst and host of the upcoming In Sync with Alexi podcast. Faz Shakir serves as senior advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders and is executive director of the nonprofit More Perfect Union. They join me now. And we got some news that just broke on the campaign literally just 10 minutes before we went to air about Donald Trump and abortion. So you might remember yesterday, my colleague Dasha Burns interviewed Donald Trump about the referendum in Florida that would uphold abortion rights. It's on the ballot this fall. It would secure abortion rights in that state. It would overturn the 6-week ban that was signed into law by Ron DeSantis. When asked by Dasha Burns yesterday, Donald Trump didn't actually answer the question, but seemed to indicate that he was going to vote for that piece of that referendum as a voter in the state of Florida, uphold abortion rights. An avalanche of pushback and anger from the anti-abortion right came his way after that. And so he was asked about it today after his campaign sort of walked it back. He was asked about it today, and I think we have the clip. Here's what he said today.
So I think 6 weeks, you need more time than 6 weeks. I've disagreed with that right from the early primaries. When I heard about it, I disagreed with it. At the same time, the Democrats are radical because the 9 months is just a ridiculous situation. So I'll be voting no for that reason.
So just to be clear, Alexi, this is news now. He's on the record. So he seemed to say, I'm going to vote yes on this referendum. I'm going to vote to secure abortion rights. I think the 6-week ban is bad. He got hammered like over 24 hours, walked away from it, has now done an apparent 180 today. What do you make of it?
I think it's incredible that anyone in the media can have a conversation about Kamala Harris allegedly flip-flopping on anything when Donald Trump is giving us a masterclass in the last 24 hours in like the literal definition of flip-flopping. But worse than that, Chris, it's another example of the central question we have to ask ourselves, not just with Trump as a candidate, but God forbid he becomes president again. Is women's health to him a political tool or a genuine policy proposal when he's talking about anything from abortion to, I don't know, the government now suddenly paying for people to use IVF, which I would implore him to actually explain whether he even knows what that procedure is or what it entails. It's a disaster. I think the one thing is clear. Nobody should believe anything he says because he'll listen to whoever talks to him last. And apparently this time it was Marjorie Dannenfelser from the SBA list.
Well, and on that last point, and I agree with you. No, I mean, it's all BS, right? It's just quintessentially like there's words coming out. It's like, oh, you guys like IVF now? How about free IVF? Like he doesn't, it's just like whatever. But the one thing that is clear here, Faz, and the reason I think you probably could like hear the cheers go up in the Harris-Walz campaign is that the one thing that is clear is he made a promise to get elected in 2016 to the anti-abortion movement that he would choose justices that overturn Roe from a pre-vetted list. He then, unlike almost every promise he's ever made in his life, miraculously kept that promise. They overturned Roe, and the last 24 hours shows that there's one group the guy won't double cross, that he won't screw over, that he will just bow before, and that is the anti-abortion forces in the Republican Party.
That, and Chris, I mean, pulling us back out, you get this, but let's be clear. Why are we talking about IVF? Why are we talking about the Florida abortion measure? Why? Donald Trump, the arsonist, created a fire. Right. We can trust the arsonist to put out. Right. Well, who cares what his position on IVF is? We created this problem. His Supreme Court justices put us in this position. You're not going to ask the arsonist to come and say, hey, you know, we got this major fire here, wondering what you would make of burning this part down and burning that down. We got to move on from him, and we're having sometimes too much of a rational debate about, whoa, he came out with this interesting position on IVF. Yeah, he's trying to win an election, and he's lying to people, and he's trying to deceive you. Here on abortion, he's trying to move on Florida in every which way, can't figure out where he's supposed to be. Trying to win an election, I got it. But for those of us who care about women's rights, reproductive rights, just be clear who started this fire that we are all still living in.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's also worth reminding people that there are, whatever people say on campaigns, like there are two major parties that actually do stuff. And they actually vote on stuff. They pass things. Like Donald Trump appointed the 3 justices that overturned Roe after promising to do so. Also, there was a vote this year, in fact, in the United States Senate of all places, one of the places that makes the laws for the nation, to basically mandate IVF treatment for Americans under their insurance. Senate Republicans blocked the bill on the right to IVF as Democrats made a push on reproductive care. It only got 2 Republican votes, Alexi. Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins of Maine voted for it, but everyone, including J.D. Vance, who's on the ticket, voting against it. So, like,
yes,
there's no daylight here. But I mean, like, everyone knows, I think, who knows this seriously knows, like, who's on what side.
Who's on what side, and also just like the number of times Trump continues to lie any given time he opens his mouth to give a speech or comments to the press or anything. I mean, that can't and shouldn't be discounted. The man is going so far as to evolve from fake news in 2016 to now claiming that there are AI crowds and images of AI crowds being created at Kamala Harris's events because he is so not living in the same reality. And the facts do not matter to him. And that is a problem, whether it comes to women's health or otherwise. And I just feel like we cannot state that enough. The man lies so much that we don't keep up with it. So sort of to Faz's point too, who cares what he has to say when he started this fire? And also when he doesn't even believe the words or know the words that are coming out of his mouth half the time he's saying them.
That's a good point. That it's like, it's even that this is, and I think this is in a real conundrum, right? You see this in campaign coverage, Faz, where it's like, it's past lies even. It's just the sort of meaningless, addled prattle of salesman shtick and patter combined with, like, maybe cognitive decline brought in by age. But there's no, like, semantic, there's no propositional content in the whole thing.
Well, now we get into Trump and why he's uniquely dangerous in American politics, because he's so deeply amoral, has no vision of right and wrong in anything, and only what can aggrandize him to his own power. So therefore, he will create false realities for his own followers. He'll tell them, hey, they've cooked up economic stats and it's all false. They're feeding you lies. And then it's Alexi saying, okay, where democracy doesn't even work because we're creating fake crowds for Kamala. He's creating a false reality for his followers, which of course then goes to the election, which is if he loses, how does he talk about a rational loss, a logical loss? He doesn't, right? He's seeding he's sowing the seeds of distrust in the very institutions and democracy around, and telling people honestly and openly that this is the last time you got to vote. Right? What does that? People are reading between the lines, and that he's building a reality that is dangerous for all of us in democracy.
Alexi, I found myself pretty disgusted by these comments about Kamala Harris, like she's not smart, is what Trump said, and the J.D. Vance posting. I think it's gross, but it also strikes me as a little counterproductive because, you're making her out to seem so ridiculous, and then she does an interview. It's like, oh, right, that's a vice president of the United States who knows what she's talking about. She wasn't doing a debate. I'm not quite sure it's such a tactically brilliant move.
Well, and it's in such contrast to the interview that Harris and Walz gave last night. They had so many opportunities to take pot shots at Trump and J.D. Vance the entire time to remind people, oh, we're being asked about positions we've evolved on over time because